What's up? Let me start this one by saying something that might tick off a lot of people in the UFO community. I'm tired of the talk. I'm tired of the interviews, the podcasts, the documentaries, the congressional hearings, the books, the anonymous sources, the I can't talk about that, the you're going to have to wait, and the constant promise that something incredible is just around the corner. Because at some point, if we're going to believe these people or keep calling these people whistleblowers, we have to ask a very simple question, and that is, where's the evidence? And I'm not talking about another 3-hour podcast where somebody tells someone that they've seen something they can't show. I'm not talking about another former intelligence officer saying that there are people inside the government who know the truth. I'm not talking about another photograph of a blurry object in the sky. I'm talking about the evidence that can be actually examined, challenged, tested, and independently verified. That's the standard I think we should be demanding. Now let's talk about David Grusch. Grusch is not some random guy who wandered into a UFO podcast. He had legitimate intelligence background, worked with UAP-related programs, and testified before Congress in 2023. He told he had knowledge of crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. He said he worked with people that described compelling evidence. That is serious, and I'm not going to dismiss him simply because the subject is UFOs. But here's where I have a problem. Much of the information that he presented was information that he said he received from other people. That distinction matters. There's a huge difference between saying I personally recovered non-human spacecraft and saying I interviewed people who told me that they recovered spacecraft. Those are two completely different things. And then we have Luis Elizondo. Again, legitimate background, legitimate experience, and somebody who's become one of the most recognizable faces of modern UFO disclosure. He has testified before Congress and has made extremely significant claims about UAP programs, secrecy, intimidation, and what he believes the government knows. In his testimony, Elizondo said much of his government work on UAP remains classified, and I understand that. I really do. Classified information can't simply be dumped onto the internet because people want answers. But here's the problem. If everything that would actually prove the extraordinary part of the story is classified, then the public is being asked to believe the story based largely on this person's credibility. And that brings me to the word whistleblower, because I think we've started using that word a little too loosely. A whistleblower in the traditional sense exposes wrongdoing by providing information that allows somebody else to investigate it. They bring documents, they bring records, they bring evidence, they identify the people involved. They give investigators something that they can follow. They don't necessarily have to put themselves in front of a camera, but eventually the information has to lead somewhere. And before you say that you just don't understand classified programs, I understand that classified information exists. I understand national security. I understand that someone who handles sensitive intelligence can't just walk into a hearing carrying a box of classified documents. But Congress has classified facilities. Inspector generals have clearances. Investigators have mechanisms for receiving this evidence. So the question becomes, after all these years, where is the independently verified result? Because that's what bothers me. We have been hearing about crashed alien spacecraft, non-human biologics, reverse engineered programs, secret compartments of government, intimidation campaigns, and decades of suppression. These are big claims, and yet when you strip away the personalities, the podcasts, the headlines, we're still standing in roughly the same place. UFOs exist. That's not controversial anymore. The U.S. government has acknowledged that military personnel have encountered things that they can't immediately identify. There are legitimate national security questions surrounding UFOs. Pilots have reported unusual encounters. Some cases remain unsolved, but unresolved doesn't automatically mean extraterrestrial. And that's where I think the UFO community sometimes makes a huge leap. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office conducted a historical review of government UAP investigations and said it found no verifiable evidence that the United States government or private industry possessed ET technology. It also said alleged hidden programs were either non-existent, misidentified, national security programs, or programs that had been discontinued. Arrow specifically described a pattern of circular reporting where claims get repeated from one person to another until the story starts sounding like established fact, even though the original evidence may never have been independently verified. Now, does that mean Arrow is right? No. The government has lied before. Governments have hidden programs before. Intelligence agencies have deceived the public before, for sure. History gives us plenty of reasons to maintain skepticism toward official explanations. But here's the uncomfortable part. Skepticism has to work both ways. If you're going to tell me don't trust the government because they could be lying, that's fair. But then you can't turn around and say, trust this former intelligence officer because he says the government is hiding aliens. That's not skepticism. That's choosing which authority you want to believe. And I'm not saying Grusch is lying. I'm not saying Elizondo is lying. I'm not saying they are deliberately manipulating anybody. I don't know that. What I am saying is that we don't have enough publicly verifiable evidence to make the leap from these men are credible to therefore ET claims are true. And that's a distinction that seems to get lost. Because credibility is not evidence. A person's resume doesn't prove a spaceship exists. A security clearance doesn't prove a crashed vehicle is ET. Testimony doesn't automatically establish the underlying claim. And saying that I saw evidence, but I can't show you, doesn't allow the public to independently evaluate that evidence. At some point, somebody has to open the box. And here's another thing that bothers me: the endless promise of disclosure. How many times have we heard that disclosure is coming? How many times have we heard that Congress is about to expose everything? How many times have we heard that whistleblowers are about to come forward? How many times have we been told that the next hearing, the next documentary, the next book, the next interview is going to change everything? And then what happens? Another interview, another claim, another anonymous source, another statement that something can't be discussed publicly. And we're right back where we started from. I'm tired of it. And if someone knows where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking, then tell the investigators where to dig. If there's a warehouse containing a recovered non-human craft, give Congress the location and the key. If there's a reverse engineering program, identify the contractors and provide documentation to the investigators with proper clearance. If there are biological specimens, let qualified scientists examine them. If there are materials that aren't made of Earth, let independent laboratories test them. And if all of that exists but remains classified, then I want Congress to tell us something simple. We independently examine the evidence and it is real. Not we talked to a guy who talked to a guy, and not we have sources, or not we know things. Show us the chain. That's how you turn a story into evidence. And here's the irony. If the government really is hiding the greatest secret in human history, the people exposing it shouldn't have to spend 10 years selling the public on their credibility. The evidence would do that for them. Imagine somebody came forward tomorrow and said, I've got a piece of this craft. They hand it over, 5 independent laboratories examine it. They publish the data. Scientists try to disprove it. Other scientists replicate the findings. The material turns out to possess properties that can't be reasonably explained by known terrestrial manufacturing. Now we're talking. That's disclosure. That's the moment the world changes, and I'd be the first guy standing here saying, holy crap, they were right. But until then, I'm going to remain a little skeptical. And I want to make something else clear. Being skeptical doesn't mean being a debunker. I want this one to be true. That's the frustrating part. I've spent years looking into UFO cases, cryptids, strange encounters, and all the weird stuff that exists around the edges of what we think we know. I want somebody to produce something that makes me rethink everything. But wanting something to be true doesn't give me permission to lower the evidentiary standard. Actually, it should make me raise it, because if we're talking about humanity discovering that we're not alone in the universe, that is probably the biggest discovery in the history of our species. It deserves better than endless speculation. It deserves better than personalities. It deserves better than YouTube thumbnails. It deserves better than another podcast telling us that something enormous is coming. It deserves evidence. So maybe the UFO community needs to stop asking skeptics, why don't you believe? The better question is, what can we actually prove? And if the answer is not much yet, then that's okay. Say that. There are still mysteries. There are still UFOs. There are still military encounters that deserve investigation. There are still unanswered questions about what our government knows and what it doesn't know. But let's stop pretending that unanswered questions are the same thing as answers. And let's stop confusing a whistleblower's story with proof of the story.